Welcome to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast, where we make entrepreneurial founders a top priority. Each episode features risk takers, business builders, community shapers, institutional and government supporters in our local startup ecosystem. Tune in weekly to hear all about what's happening with the movers and the shakers of Southern California's Inland Empire and beyond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Founders Podcast. Today, I am here with Vanessa Narvios. Just met her recently. She's doing some amazing things out in Temecula. We're going to start with talking about her personal business that she's doing right now. But I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell us a little bit about who she is, and we'll get into it. So, who are you, Vanessa? Where did you grow up? And all of that great jazz.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be speaking to all of your listeners and viewers out there. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm so glad for social media that our paths crossed. So thank you so much. So a little bit about me. I am from a little hole in the world, a little corner pocket of California known as Hemet. I don't tell most people that because it is in the middle of nowhere and it's not. It's getting better. It's getting better, but it's a little bit better. A little rough around the edges.
Right. But it's in the IE.
It is in the IE. It's there's some nicer places in the IE, but
right.
I was born and raised there, and I went to school in Menifee, not too far away. Back when Menifee was just rolling hills and zero houses.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's definitely changed a lot. And then, I went to school out in Orange County. I went to Cal State Long Beach, graduated from there, and then did a couple study abroad programs, traveled the world, and then was fortunate enough to move abroad to do my master's program. So I was able to get out of Hemet, that's for sure. So it was nice.
What was your master's in?
So I did a master's in international business. So I also did my undergrad in international business, and I thought I fell in love when I first started traveling, which was right after high school, and I moved to Mexico. Oh. So I thought I was going to work in government relations and, between the U.S. and Mexico and trade and tourism and like all this stuff, and which sounded super good on college entrance papers. Right. And definitely went a very different direction when I did my master's. I ended up having the opportunity to study abroad and do my master's in China. Nice. And so I ended up going to school there and then ended up staying for 8.5 years. So it was quite a different transition for sure.
Can you speak Mandarin?
I can. Yes.
Wow.
I do speak. I speak Mandarin, not fluently because most people don't speak Mandarin fluently unless it's your first language. Yeah. Or you speak it in the home all the time. But I speak intermediate business level Mandarin, and then also intermediate business level Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those are the top languages in the world. So yeah.
English. And that was always my goal from the beginning. So I'm pretty excited that I was able to achieve those goals. But it's a lifelong learning process. So I still have a long way to go, that's for sure.
Well, get on that Duolingo.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
I'm learning Spanish right now on Duolingo.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Oh, very nice. That's
all right. Okay, so what sparked you to get that entrepreneurial bug, where you wanted to begin, your own business coming, because you can go to school for it, but I mean, does that really mean you want to start your own business where you want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate that I had the background of business as my undergrad and then also as my master's, but I knew I eventually wanted to start a business, but it wasn't really until I started getting into the corporate world and working for other people and really understanding the lock that they have on your time and your freedom. And when I worked for my first Fortune 500, I was like, oh, no. Like, this is not for me in any kind of way, shape, or form. Being just like a number and a cog in the wheel was something that definitely did not go well with my personality. I'm much more of a free spirit. I'm a bit of a rule breaker or bender.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta be
rules don't apply to me.
You gotta be a free spirit to have that entrepreneurial. I think entrepreneurs are the ones who they buck the current trends or system. You know, they want to forge their own path, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
So, all right, so that spark, caused you to begin that, when did you start your current business? Tell us about what is the primary business that you have.
Sure. So the primary business I have now is I run a wedding and events business, and it's called Finerr Weddings and Events. And I actually restarted that when I had moved home after almost 10 years of living abroad. And I moved back because of the pandemic. So I used to live in Asia in China for 8.5 years, and then I was just getting out of there, thank goodness. By the grace of God, I swear. Woo. And in December of 2019, I came home, I dropped off my suitcases, and I moved to Bali, Indonesia.
Bali.
Yeah.
Traveler, man.
Yeah, and my plan in 2020 was to travel the world and work from my laptop with my business partner.
And so that's when COVID happened, or what?
That is when COVID smashed all my dreams of like being a digital nomad and traveling the world and on like working from the beach, but which I'll do again. I have done in the past, and I will do again. but so I restarted my events business because I did have an events business when I was living in China. I ran an events business there for almost 5 years.
Okay.
And so I did all types of events, marketing, consulting, all types of stuff. And yeah, I started that because after kind of getting out of corporate, I went to go work for a really awesome events agency there. And I worked there for about 3.5 years or so. And then, I was ready for a raise and I didn't get that raise. And I was like, wow, that blood, sweat, and tears. Like,
yeah.
And I'm not and it's not my company. And I really reevaluated my situation. I was like, oh no. Yeah. I'm not putting my blood, sweat, and tears into somebody else's dream.
That's right.
And that's when I went out on my own and I never looked back. I was like, oh, this is what it's all about. This is where the magic happens. So yeah.
So when you started Finerr Weddings and Events, did you start in the Temecula region? Right now, that's where you're primarily at, right?
Yes, I did. So when I came back, like I said, was it March 25th, 2020? So that was, right in the heart of it, of a great time to try to, move back to a place that I only really had my family here and people that I knew in high school.
Right.
And of course, everything was closed. So there was definitely no events, nothing happening.
What a time to start an events business, right?
Right. So I did work for some people for a while just to kind of get some income, right? Because I was like, hi, mom and dad.
Right. I'm back.
I'm in my mid-30s. I haven't seen it back. Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, it was pretty wild. But I spent a little bit of time kind of working for other people. Again, I was like, oh, this is not the business right here. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
And just seeing how other people run their businesses was shocking. And I was like, I tapped out very soon, and I was like, okay, you're back in your home country. There's no reason or way on God's green earth that you could not be successful. I've already ran a very successful business in a country that I didn't even speak the language fluently, and I was we're jamming. So I was like, I'm back in my home country, and I can research the laws and the rules and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And everything's laid out online, super easily. So I was, so I started in July of 2021.
Okay.
With the new business again. So it's been a good ride for sure.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about the Finerr Weddings and Events business, and what do you do? Who's your target market, which is obviously in the name, but maybe there's more. But tell us a little bit about that. Go in depth.
Sure. So I live in the Temecula wine country area, and so naturally there are a lot of weddings, right? So I previously had never really done weddings. I focused primarily on corporate events, and I never wanted to get in the wedding business because it was I always thought it'd be too emotional and I'd be a
Oh, yeah.
case like crying in the background. And so now that I'm in the industry, I love it and it's so much
Wow.
fun. My target market, I really, really do love a more luxury, high-end type of clientele because
Mm,
when I was in Asia, all of the corporate events that I did were very, very high-end
yeah.
luxury style events with very large budgets. And so
Yeah.
it's a lot funner when you get to create and design and build something from the ground up with
Wow.
people that have money to spend, even though that might be a little not PC thing to say, but it's just
Give us some idea. What's the typical price range of a really nice event?
event wise. So for weddings specifically, like kind of the
Yeah, maybe
average wedding.
start with weddings. Yeah.
Yeah. So average wedding in wine country is probably between 25 and
Okay.
$35,000.
A little chunk of
Um,
change.
it's trust me.
Woo.
People ask me all the time, like, Vanessa, you're a wedding planner. Like, when are you gonna plan your wedding? Like, I was like, first of all, I already down that road. I plan them
Right.
for a living. I
Yeah.
will get eloped on a beach in Mexico. Like that's what I will do.
You won't be planning your own wedding, right? Yeah. I do enough of this.
Yeah. Like no. That's like a cook. Like you're a chef, like cooking for yourself.
Yeah. Right, right.
But and then so like a fun like or a big budget wedding probably starts at about 100 or 150,000
Okay, okay.
and up from there.
And those give us a little bit of a picture in our mind. I know some women watching this may be like, oh,
So so unfortunately, the bad part about social media, I guess, is
yeah.
that everything you see on social media is literally like a flower budget that's 70 grand and up. Like
Damn.
so anything you see on like Pinterest or just as you're scrolling
Which
online and
honestly,
like,
I don't use Pinterest. I think Pinterest is like for like I don't. Yeah. Okay, I'm not trying to be sexist, but I think it's for women.
it's true. Its demographic definitely is mostly women.
Okay.
But I mean, anything that you're seeing on like Instagram or Pinterest or whatever, like that's the unfortunate like part of my job is I'm like,
Mm.
okay, like, so like tell me about like what is your vision for the flowers? What is your vision for the setup? And then they'll like scroll like, okay, what about this? What about this? And I'm like, ooh, girl, like, do you
So
know that that's like 50 grand?
do you
So
okay? So do you normally go onto Pinterest, create a board for people's weddings, and give them visuals like and stuff like that? How's it work?
yeah, I do for whether it's a wedding or an event. I do give them some ideas and some palettes and things, but I am always really cognizant of the person's budget. So I'm never
Okay.
going to show a bride something that I know is like flowers like they're just out of this world but it
Right.
costs 100 grand.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
If their budget's five,
Oh, get it.
because
I get it.
that's like the typical budget for I think brides for like flowers is probably between 3 to 6
3 to 6.
is
Okay.
pretty like
Okay.
average, but I mean, which is not a lot. Like flowers are
Yeah.
by far the most expensive part of any wedding. Like,
Yeah. Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow.
flowers are crazy expensive. Not like the food. So, yeah, it's
Okay.
yeah, weddings are expensive.
Okay.
But
Outside of weddings, are you doing other types of events?
I am, yeah. So I just did. I have a lovely client. I just did her baptism for
Huh?
her baby down in San Diego at the U.S. Grant. That was
Okay.
beautiful. Do bachelorette parties. I do birthday parties, anniversaries, graduations. I mean, I'll do whatever people want to pay me for.
Really? Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you. So what is the breakdown of how you plan, like just a generic event? Like, how does that go?
Sure. So I always start with their vision first, like, because you got to get the style and the vibe that they're going for, right? Because for everybody, it's so different. And then you got to understand how much money they're working with, right?
Yeah.
To see if those two things match, because oftentimes they are like off.
Right.
You know, sometimes, like, I had a client the other day that was like, okay, I want to do this event in December and I want like real snow and this, I want to go sledding. I swear to God, I was like, awesome. But for this client specifically, I know that she can afford me to go search for real snow.
Okay.
Blown it, like in the Inland Empire, you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I have a client that she's like, oh, I want to put like a, you know, like a dance floor over the pool.
Wow.
Yeah. And so but not everyone, you know, if you see that like in a music video or online or something like that, but like you don't have 10 grand to even start that process, like,
yes,
we don't need to get your hopes up.
Right.
there's other things we can do to like fit your budget, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's my job as a professional to know that, to understand like who are the vendors that you should work with, to understand like what's the average price that you should be paying for things.
Okay.
Because that's really like the service and the that I provide to the clients is really understand, like, okay, here's where you are and this is what you want, and like how do we get there and make it realistic and not break the bank, but you know, and you get what you want, your guests are happy, the whole experience is there, that kind of thing.
So vision, budget, vendors,
yes.
What else?
And the experience.
Wow. Okay, so that's kind of the framework of what people need to think about before they come to you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, are there I'm pretty sure you know, are there others who are doing some similar things to what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, to be honest, I think it is a little bit more focused. Most people are more focused.
Okay.
Because I've been in the event industry for so long and I've done so many different types of events. I mean, like from conferences to fashion shows to sporting events to weddings and everything in between. I have a very wide range, so I'm able to on one weekend do a wedding and then on the next weekend do a fashion show, and I'm able to manage that, like, and help the team to be able to manage that as well. Because most people, like, they just do weddings, or they just do like birthday parties, or so they really have their focus, versus some people might think I'm not focused. But
so you have a pretty good Rolodex of people who you can reach out to and make those connections and bring together what needs to happen, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And diverse experience where you can take on almost anything, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Thank
All right,
you.
so tell us about the growing pains, though. Yeah, what are the growing pains that you've experienced while, you know, launching this business, getting to the place where you currently are today? The things that maybe really hurt bad.
Yes. Oh God. Well, I think with most businesses that really, it's one thing is to have the processes down, one thing is to have the finance in order, right?
Yeah.
But it's always the hardest part is always human resources, right? The people that you have on your team, the people that you have working at
Yeah.
with you or for you, or what, all that kind of stuff. Those are really like the wild cards.
Right.
I think it was a very interesting time for me to start this business, especially back like in the, are we out of the pandemic? Are we not? Like that type of thing. Like, are people working? Are they not? Like,
yes.
People always say like, oh, you used to work in Asia. I bet that was really hard. Like, what was like the work mentality like there? What was the, I don't know. They always have this, like, I think, stigma around it.
Okay.
I mean, it was awesome. Like,
it was awesome.
They worked hard. They did whatever it took to get the job done. Man, I tell you,
is it kind of a different culture, huh?
Oh yeah. And so, I mean, I've managed teams for my events of over 100 people before.
Okay.
Like personally managing people to make the event happen.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Whew. So, I mean, and that's like, I mean, there's like levels involved, and anyways, I think in general, the people, when I was working in these different events and stuff, like they're used to super like hard labor. Because that's one thing with events people don't think about. They're like, oh, it's like champagne and beautiful dresses, and lights and camera action, right? Like, because it's a very sexy industry. It's like film, right? It's a very sexy industry.
Yeah.
Or modeling or whatever, right? It's a very, glitzy.
Real
but like
glitzy. Yeah.
the not glitzy part is everything else. Everything that goes into it of like, so that's, but yeah, I think definitely the challenge with labor, especially here, like when first starting to work, and especially when I was working for other people and I started working at some of the wineries and things.
Yeah.
The people that would show up from like temp agencies, because people weren't even really back to work yet, were just people that came out of the woodwork from like Hemet, probably. I don't know.
Really? Wow.
It was rough.
It was like, rough.
Oh, okay.
And this was just coming out of the pandemic, right?
Yeah. So now
is it still the same, or?
So now I'm in a little bit different scenario. Now I have a very core team of people that I bring with me to an event. Nice. I don't rely on any staffing agencies. I have all my own people that I train. I say, hey, you need to wear this. You're showing it to somebody's, like I had, when I first started working, this was before I started my company, but
okay.
I was doing a wedding at one of the wineries and they used a staffing agency. Okay, fair enough. No big deal. Because everyone had to lay off all of their events team, right?
Right.
So this girl showed up to somebody's wedding in like a tiny little crop top and like hair that I kid you not, and like that looked like it hadn't been washed in 4 days, 5 maybe. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like your belly's showing, you have spaghetti straps, and you're at somebody's wedding, like where people are wearing like formal attire. I gave her my shirt. I'm not even kidding. I gave her an extra shirt that I had in my car because I was like, or I have to send her home. Like it was just, anyways. Or people that maybe like, I don't. Anyways.
That's a growing pain.
I'm like, I don't even know how deep you want to get on this interview, but I mean, I have horror stories for days, but
man, but
it's the hardest part of any business, though, is the people, for sure.
The human resources, that makes sense, and it's true. And even like it seems like every industry, and so are there any others outside of human resources that you would say have been growing pains?
Let's see. I think sales is always, I think, the challenge for, again, any business, right? Yeah. And then like really kind of figuring out what that secret sauce is and what makes you different than anybody else, and like what's your value proposition, to use a business term, right? And for me, that was really like, because I came back and I didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew people I went to high school with, but like I wasn't trying to call them and be like, "Hey, you getting married?" Like,
right.
But I really, really started to build my vendor network. That's number one, and then really trying to prove who I was specifically and letting them know that they could trust me, know me, and then that's when they would start to like refer business to me.
Nice. Yeah.
And then, but just gaining that trust,
Right.
and then just the hustle, right? But that's every single business. That's if you're an entrepreneur, the hustle gene is something that is innate in your soul.
Yeah.
Like I will work harder than anybody else, like in the room, and that is just. I once heard this really great quote from Will Smith. And he was, I don't know if you've seen this interview that he did. I think he was like, it was like back in the day, he was on Arsenio Hall or something like that.
I think I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, where he was just like, if it's me versus you and we're on the treadmill together and I'm running next to you, I will die before you get off the treadmill.
No.
Like, I will literally work harder than anyone in the room. And that's always been my flow and my style. And that's just an innate thing. And
That's good.
And so when building your network and really like going after sales and proving yourself, like,
yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't just show up and be like, oh, wow, there's people like lining up outside the door wanting me to plan their wedding.
Man, that'd be so nice. Wouldn't that be nice?
Give me money.
Take my money.
You have to go out. You have to prove yourself. You have to, and show up time and time again to really make that name for yourself. And I've been very, very fortunate that hustle gene is innate, and I'm very fortunate to, now be seeing the successes and reaping the rewards of that. So
that's awesome. All right. So at your current stage in your startup, what are some of your primary needs? What you're doing, what are some of the primary needs that you have, and like, how are you seeking to kind of fulfill those needs?
So I'm still looking to build my team, really, like, again, back to HR, right? So it's not just necessarily people that are like going and doing and helping with the events themselves, because that's, I think, an easier skill to in some way it's a little bit easier skill to train.
Okay.
But essentially my team, in terms of my right hand woman or man as an assistant, my social media, my marketing team, my admin and finance, and like who's actually like making sure, okay, all the money's there, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because I like to say a Jill of all trades. I know all the things. I just don't want to do all the things.
You can't. You have to have people involved.
Yes.
And if you want to grow, you always got to bring on more people. They have to become like your extra arm, right?
Yes, exactly. And
was that? Let me ask you. Was that a tough thing for you in the beginning to learn to start? Delegation.
Yes.
I think that's a common thread. I mean, like learning to delegate, right?
Yes, and because business is my background, and I have such a good overview of how things just generally work and how like everything kind of fits together.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I do it better than anybody else in the room. It's just that I have a good understanding, right? But man, it's sometimes hard to trust others, and
that's what it is. It's a trust thing, right?
I mean, I learn, and I struggle with it every day, and I think those I just hit my watch. I think those tough conversations that you need to have with employees sometimes, I think, is really that's an area where I'm really needing to grow. Is like, hey, like the bar is supposed to be here, you're delivering here, like how can I help you get from A to Z, right? So, and
you don't want to micromanage, right? You just like but I've heard some people say you should micromanage, but it's a fine balance, right? Nobody has time to micromanage.
Yes, exactly. I don't have time to micromanage. I do a lot of things, so I don't. Right.
It's kind of annoying. It's really annoying. No, it's really annoying.
Just really kind of like on the front end, really being able to ask the right questions to make sure you're getting the right person that does the right things, the things that you need. Like, for example, everyone's like, oh yeah, I do social media, and you're like, but do you? Like, do you how like the Instagram algorithm works? Do you actually study like why how a post is supposed to be formatted, how many hashtags, like when do you post,
time to post, right? Frequency.
Like, oh my gosh, And sometimes
Yeah.
people are like, oh yeah, I do marketing, and you're like, oh okay, cool. Like with what? And they're like, I just like post to my Instagram every once in a while, and you're like, that's not really
Yeah.
marketing. That's social media. Like
That's
just do
just,
it. Anyways, asking the right questions and
yeah.
then being able to afford the best people is
Right.
that's a challenge. It's
Yeah,
one of
that
the
is a
hardest
tough one.
things.
And
So,
one of the things too, like I've heard people say, and I've done myself, is they say hire slow, fire fast. You know what I mean?
yes.
And sometimes if you do that, you're gonna cycle through a lot of people really fast, but you may end up finding that really good fit sooner.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
true. That's
So.
I need to get better at that.
uh,
I'm not perfect.
well,
I'm just out here learning just
yeah.
like everybody else.
You know what? Honestly, I mean, like that's why I think, like, things like the mastermind groups. There's a mastermind group here in the Inland Empire, Center for Entrepreneurship, or there's even a business group in Wildemore. I think those type of groups where you're coming together with other entrepreneurs, and you're doing like a mastermind type thing, are really helpful because
Yeah.
you're bouncing off each other these stories. And I'm pretty sure people listening to this podcast are, business owners. Well, our demographics are business owners. We have some entrepreneurs, university people, and government people, but those people in our audience may be interested in something like that as well. So
Yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
throwing
Yeah.
that out there.
Yeah. You got to send me the links for those or put them in the show notes for sure.
Right.
I'm like,
Yes.
I would like to join.
Oh, you know what? I'll send you the link for the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship one, because we
Oh,
did
cool.
we did an article on them.
Oh, awesome.
Um, so next question: what are two short-term goals that you have for the wedding business that you have? So what are two short-term goals within the next 2 months that you're trying to accomplish?
2 months. I'm like,
Next 2 months.
survive.
Right.
So September and October are the busiest months for weddings.
Oh
So
wow.
May, June, September, and October. So I literally have 7 weddings in September
Woo.
and about 10 like weddings and events in October. So
Wow.
on one day I have 4 events.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, so
That's
yes,
crazy.
goal number one. Um, and then I think for these couple months it will be a lot of really because my team is also helping to execute. Obviously, I can't be at all these places,
All of those.
four
Yep.
places in one day,
Right.
but at the same time. So being able to make sure that my team is trained and going to be executing flawlessly, because that is my standard. It is
Okay.
a flawless event. Like
Right.
every single thing has to go perfect. Period.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
that is what
Yeah.
it is. It's somebody's wedding. You don't get
Yes.
or an event. It doesn't matter. You don't get the chance to
To
redo it.
redo.
It has to be perfect. Like
Mm.
there's nothing like, oops, sorry. Like that's not acceptable. So
Not acceptable. Yeah.
yeah. So working with everybody to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch, and
Awesome.
then I can breathe again.
Okay. So what's your two goals? Two short terms: or survive and breathe. You want to add anything else to that one?
Well, and training the team to make sure that they're perfect.
Training the team to
Yeah.
make sure they're perfect. Okay, cool. Tell us about your long-term goals. Okay, we'll start with 3 years. Okay, and then gonna hit 5 and 10.
Okay. So in 3 years, I want to definitely make sure that I have a team that is up, running, has a flow, understands expectations, and that really buy into the overall vision of the company.
Yes.
And so I think the team size I'd like to keep around 20 or so, because I
Okay.
think once it gets past 20, it just like it turns into a different beast.
Right.
So I think 3 years, that's definitely
Okay.
my goal, because I'm getting older, so
Yeah.
I don't want to be out like
All
doing
everywhere.
20-hour 12-hour days every single weekend, multiple times a weekend, like
Mhm.
when I'm in my 40s. So I have to train the team to be able to execute and perform. So that's definitely the goal within the
Top
next
one.
3 years.
Okay. Okay.
Next 5 years, I would like to probably be working from another country, I'd say.
Okay.
So, because I'm very used to working remotely. Like I worked remotely before working remotely was cool or like
Oh,
necessity.
nice. Yeah.
So,
Okay. So that was before. You mean like before COVID locked everything down?
yeah, I
Yeah.
used to work remotely for
I'm.
clients all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
And
I'd like to be running my business, but running it from afar. So
I like.
probably from the beaches in
Nice.
Spain. I'd
Oh
like to
yeah.
move back to Spain. I've lived there before, and I'd
Wow.
like to move back there. Yeah, and just be running it from afar, knowing that I can have an upper management team that just reports the numbers to me and is like, okay, this is the guidance we need. Okay, we need this type of
Yes.
investment to be able to do X, Y, Z. So
Okay.
that's the type of growth that I would like to have, is that I'm literally on a beach in Spain somewhere and I'm just checking my emails,
Nice. Yeah.
understanding like, okay, cool, everything's great because I already put out in all the foundation blocks and the building blocks to get it to where it needs to be,
Yes.
and it's ready to roll. So yeah, that's 5 years.
Okay. The big one. 10 years.
10 years, I hope to be retired.
Yeah. There we go. I
I'll
mean,
look back at this.
do you think you would ever sell your business?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That'd be like an exit strategy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And are
I
you
mean,
building it in a scalable form?
that's yes. So I'm working on that. So again, marketing is a huge part of what I do. That's so I understand the value of that. Whether it's an email list, whether it's because again on social media you don't own those platforms, but at
Right.
least with an email list, like that is your data.
Yes.
And so yes, oh absolutely, I'm definitely open to selling it in the future and making
Okay.
not that it's a huge exit or something. It's not like a $10 billion exit, right? But
Hey,
I mean,
events
maybe,
businesses, maybe,
maybe.
yeah. Depending on the way you build it, and I talked with an attorney previously on like last week's podcast, and the one part of our conversation, it just kind of led to like most service businesses usually lead into a type of a software business. Let's
Mm,
say you develop some type of software that's
yeah,
sellable, you know?
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would want an exit, and I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have
Okay.
had several businesses, and I currently have several businesses right now already
Right.
that I'm taking on, and so people are always like, "How do you do it? How do you do all these things?" And I'm like,
I know because I met you through another business.
yes. I'm good, and we're going to talk about that on another
On
podcast.
another
But
podcast, yes.
I'm currently opening a restaurant at the moment,
Yes.
and so everyone always asks me, they're like, Vanessa, like, how do you do all these things? And I'm like, and for me, it's always such a funny answer because I'm like,
I'm
of
a
course.
hustler, baby. Yeah, right.
But I'm just like, for me, I'm like, of course, I have a team around
Yeah,
me that helps me to do these things. I don't do it all by myself. Like, no one
right.
can do it all by themselves. I
No,
have a
no.
team that helps me with my social media. I have a team that helps me, do my admin stuff. I have a team, but it's just like,
I
so.
wonder if people think Elon Musk does everything, you know?
Like, do you
Right.
think Elon Musk is like out there building cars? Like, absolutely not. Like
No.
what? So but the secret sauce of being an entrepreneur is not just having the vision. It's not just having that trust and that's that sales ability and really to like market your vision and really like, get it out there and close the deals, because that's
Mm-hmm.
huge.
It
It's
is
a
huge.
must, but it's really being able to bring the right people together and manage those people to get
Mm,
your vision across the finish line, right? So
yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
build the trust within the team to make
Yes.
them do sometimes the crazy things and the crazy ideas that you have,
Yeah. So,
right?
yeah, and one of the things that I read that investors look for, when they're going to invest into a business, they look for a founder or a CEO who has enough influence with their team
Mhm.
that their team will work for them for free.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I mean, and I've had some of my workers tell me, hey, if you run out of money, we'll work for free. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
thanks for that, but I'm still gonna pay you.
yeah. Well, that makes me feel really good. I definitely have had some of my team just be like, "It's cool, Vanessa. Like, whatever needs to happen." I'm just like, like,
That's
thank
great.
you. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. But
that
like,
is a great sign, and
yeah,
investors look for that. That's cool.
it's very cool.
So in 10 years, exit.
Yes,
Okay, okay,
absolutely. And sell and start something new and different. So
okay.
I'm always looking to grow. I'm always looking for new opportunities and, just in ways that I can add value. And I've been in all aspects of the service industry, whether it's been in events or marketing or consulting or opening a restaurant or hotels. So, I mean, I've done every single thing within this industry. I
Yeah,
mean, not every single thing, but, all major parts of it.
right.
Um, so, I mean, it's all about really keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open, being at the
Mm,
right place at the right time. And, you never know where the next 6 months is going to lead you, where the next 3 years. Like,
mm,
I've grown this business now into, I mean, the most money I've ever made in a year. That's
that's
for sure.
freaking
And I'm
awesome.
like,
That's
because
awesome.
that hustle is real.
The hustle is real. Yes.
Because when you show up at your parents' doorstep with with a suitcase in the middle of a pandemic, let me tell you, that hustle gets really real.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine they're looking sideways at you and they're like, hmm.
They're like, well, my mom was like, you can just stay here forever. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah, I'm sure the mom is gonna say, "You just stay here, baby." and
yes, she's back. And, yeah. And then I was like, I called my sister. I was like, help me. I gotta go. Anyways,
So
but yeah,
did your
I mean,
sister play a big part in helping you get started as well too, or?
she definitely played a big part in helping me have a place to, like, lay my head, and as she gave me
Yeah.
a room,
Oh,
which
nice,
which
man.
we're sisters, obviously, so we're close, but like,
Yeah.
we're twins as well, so we used to
Oh,
fight
nice.
cats and dogs when I was
Oh.
younger. So I was like, this is only going to go really good or really bad.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, can't imagine like as an adult, man, fighting with your twin. Whew.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm very blessed that,
That's
it's all
awesome.
been really good. And but
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm very excited for what the next couple years and 10 years has in store, for sure.
So
And beyond.
finally, okay, tell us, everybody, where can people find you online, offline, everywhere? Like, what are all the properties?
Yes. So I am on all the things. So Instagram, Facebook, uh, of course, my website, LinkedIn. I'm just not on TikTok yet. And I know
No
I'm like,
TikTok.
talking about
It's all
marketing the
right.
whole time. I'm not on TikTok. I'm like, I can't.
It's a whole
But
nother platform.
yes, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But Pinterest as well. And that is at Finerr Weddings and Events. So that's FINERR, so two R's, weddings and events, and that's both plural. And so my website's, of course, .com, and then you can find me on all the things at that handle. So
Awesome.
yeah,
All right. Do you currently have any events, any upcoming events or promotions, anything like that you want to mention? Anything else, to our audience?
let's see. So I did just get into the rental business as well. So
Nice.
so I provide brides and couples with all the rentals that they don't need to go out and spend money on stuff that they'll never use again, because I think
Wow.
it's crazy. Like, that's
So,
so crazy.
that's pretty big. Okay, so like, what type of rental? Like wedding dress?
Oh, no, God,
Oh,
no.
okay. I'm
Oh my
like,
God, is it crazy? I give it to those people who are able to have that business, but that was definitely not me.
okay.
No, like all the stuff that you would buy for a wedding or an event, like candles or like a card box or like
Oh,
signs, different, like a cake server, like, or just all these like
nice.
random wedding stuff,
Okay.
and like people like just go out and buy, and they spend all this money on stuff that they
Mm-hmm.
will never use again. You can just rent that from me at
Oh,
a
that's great.
third of the cost.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So if you are planning a wedding, planning an event, are there any type of events you don't do? Uh,
No, I
all
would
right.
do. I mean, I haven't had one come across my desk yet that I wouldn't do, and yeah, as long as I've come across people that I wouldn't like to work with, really.
Ah,
If you
yes.
throw up those red flags, I mean, that's
Right,
a
right.
situation. But no, I mean, I love providing experiences for people and seeing the joy and the love and the happiness that comes from the hard work that I put into making it happen
Yeah.
for people. And yeah, so there's nothing I wouldn't do, not that I could think of.
All right. So contact Vanessa with Finerr Weddings and Event, 2 R's, Finerr Weddings and Events.com. Contact her on all social medias. Want to thank you for coming on today, Vanessa. Thank you for being on the Founders Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all.
Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, that's another Founders Podcast in the books today. If you have not liked this channel or subscribed, please do both. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you listening. We are on YouTube and all major platforms. Once again, thank you for tuning in. See you next time on the Founders Podcast. Peace.
Bye.